Welcome to my channel. Here I'll be talking about how an organization can manage users and also guest users, which are B2B collaborators in their Azure Active Directory. And also looking at what are the roles or administrative access control that users can have for them to be able to create users, manage users, and assign roles. Most importantly, is not every user in an organization can assign roles, especially high privilege roles. You must be a global administrator or a privileged administrator or a user administrator for you to be able to create users and also guest users, and also for you to be able to perform a lot of privilege roles and directory roles on Azure Active Directory, both authentication, both administrative rights, both assigning licenses. For the global administrator and privileged administrator, both users can create and delete any users, including admins. While the user direct administrator can delete non-admin users and also user administrators. It is very important to understand that when a user is being given these administrative rights, it's always good not to give users more than two users administrative right to be a global administrator or to be a user administrator. This is very essential to control the security policies and the security purposes, and also to know who is granting which particular administrative roles and access. Now, to secure access for users and guests in the Azure Active Directory, let's understand first of all what users who are employees or known as native member of a tenant and external collaborators who are guest users, B2B collaborators. Let's understand what default permissions and administrative rights permissions that they can have. The user's employees can create groups, read hidden Microsoft group properties, while the external users also, through their collaboration, can invite other guest users and secure access with restricted permissions. More so, the users and employees can have access to all Microsoft resources, Microsoft 365, Teams, SaaS apps, SharePoint, and custom developed apps, same as the guest users can have access to all these. While on the policies and licenses, not minding the default permissions that are granted to them, the users or employees which are native member of a tenant can manage and read all property policies and read all administrative roles in Azure Active Directory tenants of their organization. While the guest users are restricted on the type of properties they can access. They are not given any role permissions to access some certain properties. Also, not minding, they are also given the roles to be able to uh, do password reset, and also to be able to view on their group. If they are being added on a group, they can able to view the applications and also the read and write on that particular group. Now, the next thing I will do is to show how to create users and also how to manage these users by granting these users administrative roles, and also by granting guest users administrative roles and granting them licenses. This enables every organization to understand how users can be granted access controls and secure users without having any problem, and also protecting identity of every roles in an organizations. Follow my demo and understand how it works on Azure Active Directory. I will demonstrate the demo on how to create a user for a new employee who has joined your organization, and also create a guest user, which is a B2B or B2C collaboration from an external organization. From this management of user in Azure Active Directory, I will also demonstrate how you reset the user password and also create a task for the user. I've already explained what is user management in Azure Active Directory, and also what is B2B external user collaborator, also known as guest user. Now, this is to show the demonstration on how to manage user who is an employee and also a guest user who is a B2B external collaborator, and what license and task and also roles you can add on them. First of all, this is my tenant as a global administrator. As already explained before, you manage user create a user and assign roles to user. You must be a global administrator or you must be a user administrator. And understanding when you come to Azure Active Directory, maybe if I go back to create source, so you'd see on your Azure tenant, for me to now migrate to my tenant, I'll access Microsoft Entra ID. I'll come to my tenant. If you don't know already how to navigate through the dashboard of Azure Active Directory, I've already made a previous video on how to navigate through the dashboard of Azure Active Directory. So let me begin by creating a user. Here you will see I already have old users. I've created 15 users and I have groups, 6 groups, and also understand the issue of license. As a global administrator, I have Microsoft Entra ID P2 as my license, which will enable me and grant me more access to perform more administrative rights. Let me go to the old users I've already created so that you could see these are all the guest users I've already created, and also these are the employee users I've already created. I can delete a lot of them so that I can have space to collect new users. Deleting these users is also part of what this demo project is all about, on how to delete users. I already explained in Azure Active Directory, when you delete a user has 30 days space. If you don't retrieve that user back, you cannot restore the user again. And also, when you delete a user, the user is not permanently deleted from your tenant. If you want to delete a user permanently, after deleting the user, you go back and perform a second operation of deleting a user. Now, after clicking delete, I will click OK, deleted. Now we could see it wrote the user is partially deleted. I will continue deleting this. Because I might use the same name again to create the users. So I don't really want, I will delete them. I could see the user is partially deleted, right? Yeah, it's telling me that users cannot be deleted. I think it's from my own member. This is me. I cannot delete myself. Okay, yeah, perfect. Now let's come to this, and if I click here, you will see all the deleted users. Now the second layer of deletion is to do permanent deletion, because if I can also restore any users, if I click this, I can permanently delete or restore the user. Let me perform it to restore Nana Decay and Trivia Waves. I've restored these 2 users. Now let me go back to all my users to see if they are restored. You can see I've restored these two users. So it's also as an IT administrator or Azure Active Directory administrator to understand the importance of user deletion and also how to restore users, and also to understand a 30 days space gap on restoring a user. I'll continue to delete these users because I don't need them anymore. I'll refresh. I'll have to delete them again. Yeah, deleted. Then I'll go to deleted users and see all the deleted users. I will now permanently delete all the users. And also, when you permanently delete a user, you cannot restore that user back again. The only thing is you creating another user, maybe with the same name. So users are permanently deleted automatically 30 days after they are deleted. So now I've permanently deleted the users out from my tenant. So if I go here, I don't have any user again. So right now, let me start creating a user. Here we could see there is create new user and also invite external user. Inviting external user could be a B2B user collaborator or B2C user collaborator. And inviting a user, they always have default permission. So that's why it's always important when creating a user and managing a user. It is very important also to set user roles, user license, and give users access permission based on least privilege roles. Now, let me create the first user. If you want to create user, creating new user here is creating an internal user in your organization, which could be an employee. Now, another thing to notice on this creation of user is the user having the tenant at email address here, bears it at on Microsoft.com. This is different when you are inviting a user with that user's personal email address. So create a user in the organization. The user will have a username like alice@contoso.com, which is the name for your Azure tenant of your organization. Remember that Azure tenant is a name of your organization, is a platform for your organization. Now let me write the name of the user. Nkemdike. Now I can display the user's name. Also here, you can auto-generate the user password, or if you don't want to auto-generate the user password, you click it, or you unclick it, then the user you write the password you want to generate for the user. Now here, last name. Here you can as well set the user as a member or as a guest, depending on when you want to start, and also you can edit any certificate. Let's fill the user's information. I can give the user a software developer and also give a user name of the companies, any company you want to name the user and everything. The user ID, you can add the manager of your user, also give a street address of the user, the normal user email address and everything. Another important in creating a user, whether guest user or in group or creating an employee user, is usage location. Without a user location, you cannot assign a role and you cannot assign a license. So let me use user location of Andorra for this user. Next, right now is we've already come to the assignment. On the user, you can now be able to assign user an administrative unit role, and also you can assign the user to a group, or you can assign the user a role directly based on least privilege role. Okay, it's very good to understand these three aspects and also to understand how to do it. Right now, I'm not going to assign any user any administrative unit because I've not created any administrative unit. You will see next in my video channel how to create administrative unit and how to add a user to an administrative unit. First of all, and also how to create a group. Watch my next video on how to create a group. Before you add a user to a group or administrative unit, you have to create it and also you have to create a group first and assign a group name. Let me add a role to this user. An important aspect of Azure Active Directory is to understand different administrative roles and their importance, and also understand how and when to assign a particular administrative role to a user, and also to understand roles that are privileged roles that has a high license and high security purposes. Example, if I assign this uh, user administrator, the user can manage all aspects of users and groups, including resetting passwords for limited admins. I'll assign it. And also, you can assign the user SharePoint administrator, and the user can have more than one roles, but always be consigned on trust policy, least privilege role that the user really need. You can assign the user any help desk administrator and also a group administrator or a global reader. So this user, I can assign this user also a global reader so that the user can read everything that a global administrator can, but cannot update anything. Then as a global administrator manages all Microsoft Entra ID and services and use every Microsoft Entra identities. So global administrator is really a high privilege role in Azure Active Directory because it can manage, create, and invite users and delete users. So I'll select. So you can see the type of role I've assigned to the user, global reader, and user administrator, and I can as well delete them here. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to review and create. Now, this is the password for the user, right? This is the email address for the user that the user will use and access. This is the user settings. Then I'll create. The user is successfully created. I'll refresh. Now we've seen Nkem DK as the user. Now I would like to create three more users so that I'll be able to add them. Okay, I'll use all the name and so that then a few display name of Nina. A few the same thing. Next, the user is a member. I'll put all of them software developer and assign them different roles. Employee ID, everything's still normal. User location, yeah, I'll give them the same location so that you can give any location you want. Now I'll add role to this user. I'll add this application administrator. The user can create and manage all aspects of app registrations and enterprise apps. And also I'll add the role of application developer. Here, the user can be able to create application registration. Independent of the users can also register application settings. Then we see the roles and there are our credits. This is the username. This is it. This is application developer. Great. Is it successfully created? I'll refresh. Refresh. Now we've seen Nina Afio as the user in the organization. Yes, now what next? Let me now create an external user. I've already explained the idea of external user, B2B collaborator user, and also how to manage external users. In your organization, you can invite a B2B business to business collaborator to feature within your Azure only and also to be able to use some of your resources, let's say, example, SharePoint or your platform apps, and also to be able to join together to manage some resources for over a very small time. To understand also that in inviting an external user for collaboration, to be able to give the external user the default permission rights and also limited access to your tenant and also limited access on what the external user can access. This is based on security purposes and also to maintain the right digital identity and also to be able to maintain the resources that the external user can use and be able to, after the external user is done within the limited time external user going to be with your organization tenants, you can be able to delete the external user without having any fear. Now let me create external user. I'll invite external user. You could see the difference here in inviting external user. I have to now use the external user email address. Yeah, this is totally how it works. Now, let me use the external user email address. External user. Now, I can also send it a name or an email to the external user. And let me write something. You can write anything you like, anything. I'm just being. Now you can also copy if there are other people that needs to be copied, you can copy to them. So the next thing also to write the name of the external user. Now you could see on the external user here, external user is guest. We'll put in it's a guest right there. So the developer, you can write the company names, anything you want to write, and also you can also be able to put the manager who is in charge or the sponsor, any street address, anything, and another important, put the location of the external user. Now we can assign a role to the external user depending on what you want the external user to do. Let's look for a role that is suitable for an external user. Okay, we can add cloud application administrator. for the external user. We can also add Dynamics 365 for an external user and select. We could see the two roles we've added to an external user. Then let's review and invite. We invite the external user and we'll refresh. Now we've seen the external user. This is pure. Now let's see how to manage each of these users, how they can access, their invitation. Let me start with the external user and with the email. Sorry. Now you could see that another good thing is when there is a mistake, let me go back and review on the settings, properties, as I've already seen a mistake on the external user principal name. Okay, it's not a mistake, it is right. So this is also another way you can edit external user, okay, information. Either you go to the properties or edit properties, whether external user or employee user. Here you can now edit the user contact information. Anything you want to add extra, I can also use this. Anything you want to add extra, I save it. You understand? Okay. Yeah. Okay, the user already have an email address, okay, which is not really fine. Let me go to this is the job information for the user booking a phone. This is the job information. Okay, telling me that another user already was using that email that house address. Now let me edit this one. 2456 employee type contract. I can also set hiring dates. I can put July 30th, everything, and also I save. Let me click on the notification. Is it on the right user that I'm doing it? Let me go to my overview and see why. My users. Let me click CamDK. Properties. Okay, see the user rights and everything. Then the user already has contact information. I can also set parental control. Yeah, the location is here, right? The software, let me add extra things and see company ID, number, 2 3 3 3 4, employee type, full time. Yeah, it's permanently saved right now. Then this for the user in KMDK. And also here we could now be able to see the user and everything. If I want to reset password, you can also reset the password user. If I click reset here, if I click reset, this will reset the user's password. So to understand that, you can also do a temporary password reset. Let me go back here. And this is all about this user. If I view member, this is the user email address. And this user can also invite a guest user. This is also to understand the user's permission rights. The user has a user administrator right. Okay. And has two roles assigned to the user. Now let's let me reset the password that so that if I reset the password, you see how the password could now we have reset the password right now. You could see password 3217. This is the password. Now let this user access its own platform. I'll copy this. I'll open a new platform, the invitation. I'll maybe use another platform for the user to access it. To access use Azure portal. Now for this user to sign in, let's use another user account. I'll entirely delete this. Then next. Now automatically it's telling the user to update his current password to change Puma 3217. Now let's give a new account. Will be yes. Now it's also trying to tell the user the possibility to also do Microsoft Authenticator app. This I will also be able to show how a user can be able to download Microsoft Authenticator app and be able to implement strong multi-factor authentication while signing in. But I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it later. You can see right now this user now has access to Microsoft Azure. Okay, this user has access to Microsoft Azure and can manage everything on this platform, Microsoft Azure. Here you could see the tenant that the user is. It's under KMDK at chimajera.com, which is the organization the user is working on. This is how a user inviting a user as an employee can manage his tenant. Now let's go back and manage the private user, which is invite an external user. Now, if I go to my overview, if I go to my home and the user and the users, now this is the external user. We could see that the external user has a separate email address. Now let's go to the external user email address and see how this external user can access. We go back here. Sorry, I have a lot. Okay, I will open the email for the external user and see if the external user receives an email. Now, the external user receives an invitation from the organization with the domain name, and also the message is from the organization. Dear Bookie, we have accepted the contract with your company. Now it's asking the external user to accept the invitation. Once the external user accepts the invitation, the external user will be sent to this place to sign in. We could see the dashboard automatically. The external user is invited to use all administrative um, apps, can use apps on Microsoft 365, and also can add apps, can create collection, customize views, and everything. Let's look at the different apps that external user can use. Let's explore all the apps. We can see a external user is welcome to Microsoft 365 and also can use Excel, can use different types of things on Microsoft 365, can work with the organization. Next thing I'll perform right now is to add more administrative rights to these external users. Let me go first. These are all my users. I've already shown how to invite a user and also how to invite an external user. Let's add more access administrative rights to the user. Let me start from NKMDK right now. We could see this is the tenant for NKMDK. Now, let's from here, you can assign other roles to NKMDK. You can also assign NKMDK to groups. You can also assign licenses to NKMDK. You can also assign authentication methods to NKMDK. Here, let me be opening here. These are the two roles NKMDK is already having, which are active roles. Here, you can assign other assignments to NKMDK. We can set roles and we can assign other resource directory roles to NKMDK here. Okay, let me sign conditional access administrator. Here you can also select more members, but we don't need it. The scope type of the role is directory. Now, let me put next. Put active. Now we see the difference. When you put active, you have to justify. Okay, why justify? But when you put eligible, you don't need to justify. Let me put active and justify. And then I'll assign the role. Now we can see the role, conditional access, the new role directory that is being assigned to NKMDK. You can just create a user also and then come to the user dashboard and assign roles. Here I can also assign administrative units, but I'm not going to do it. Watch my next channel to see how to assign administrative units because it's a whole concept on its own. I can assign groups to NKMDK because before you assign a user to a group, you have to first of all create a group. And also that is what is peculiar to administrative units. You have to first of all create an administrative unit before you assign a user to administrative units. Here is also license, right? I can assign this user to a particular license. Let's create assignment. Now I can assign user Microsoft Entra governance, and we see licenses that can be assigned to this. Let me click two, and we could see several licenses that I can assign to this in ChemDK. Let me remove. And by these licenses, this user can perform everything and administrative rights on Microsoft Entra ID P2, which gives the user access as a global administrator and perform any license and assign any license to another user. This user can as well perform all multi-factor authentication methods and assign users to different multi-factor authentication methods. Let me save it. I've already assigned this user. Let me go back. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. That's how it will show. Now let's see other things. I can also assign authentication methods to this user. I will show a different simple authentication method. You can see this user has a phone, or I can also assign authentication method based on email address. If I assign authentication methods, I can also re-register the user through multi-factor authentication methods. Now, which authentication methods am I gonna use to assign this? I can use phone authentication method. I can use email authentication method. Later in my next channel, you will understand how to assign authentication methods to users. You can also assign authentication methods to users that are on a group. Now let me go back. Let's go back to the license. Yeah, this is the license. Now, if we click the license, we could see total of 4. The user has 3 license. If I click on the license, now the license Microsoft multi-factor authentication, the user can access it. Microsoft Defender, no, yes, and on. This is the license I've already granted to this user. I can as well remove the license. So this is a way to create and manage users on Microsoft Entra ID and also grant administrative rights and administrative roles to users on Microsoft Entra ID. Another factor I would like to check on all users. Let me also do for the external users, which is B2B. Here we could see is a user type B2B. Let me go here. And also to understand that this user can be converted to an internal user and also has the right to invite other B2B users. Now let me go to assign roles. The two already assigned roles to the B2B user. Let me add an extra role. I can add an extra role. I can add add this. I can just, you could see the difference when handling. Here I left it eligible to assign. The role is already assigned. I'll refresh. Yeah, let's leave it a little bit. And also here you can assign groups and you can assign licenses and authentication method to users. The same way I showed about how to handle internal users. Yeah, this is it, the attribute definition role. Also to understand, here is an eligible assignment and here is an active assignment. With maybe you removed a user from here or updated a user, the roles, it will automatically shows expired assignments that the user has initially performed. We go back on my tenant and also to see all the users. Here, thank you for watching on how to manage users, how to create internal user, and also how to invite external users and grant access and license to users on Azure Active Directory, and also how to manage users on Microsoft Entra ID. Watch next my video on how to manage groups on Azure Active Directory. Management of groups is really very important because this is the more secure way to assign roles to users, unlike assigning every user every role or each user each role. It's really a big security concern, but assigning roles to users in a group, assigning them in a group enables also to monitor securities. Even if one user goes out or is no more working for your organization, the role is assigned to the group, is not assigned on the user. So, and also it enables the need to assign privilege role administrator and global role administrator or groups administrator or user administrator to a particular user, to one or two users. But you don't assign global administrator, privilege role administrator, or user administrator to groups. Or you can decide to assign it to two or three users in a group, but not to every group, because these are high privilege roles that monitors a lot of administrative rights and licenses in Azure Active Directory for your organization. Thank you. And please don't forget to subscribe and also to like and also to comment. See you on the group user management. Bye.